Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks. On today's episode, we're talking about why once you're earning $500,000 a year or more, tax filing alone is no longer enough.
The IRS is no longer your adversary. They become your business partner. So if you're not happy with what your CPA is doing, then that should be an indication that you've outgrown them.
Welcome back to the podcast. We're so glad you're here. I'm joined again today by Bob Wolf, the one and only. Bob, thanks for being here.
Hi.
All right, today we're going back to the basics a bit. It is that time of year again, and more people are coming to us having just done their taxes, and they are frustrated, and they are saying, I need to do something different. And that is what leads so many people to us. And so the simple point we want to make with this episode is that if you are feeling frustrated with your CPA, you're placing blame in the wrong place, because the reality is CPAs have a certain job. They're probably doing it very well, but you, Doc, have outgrown and gone beyond what they can provide. So what are you to do when you're earning $500,000 a year or more and you're still working with a CPA? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Bob, what actually changes once someone gets to that point and their earning is $500,000 or more?
Yeah. Them, first and foremost, they change. They realize they've hit a pain point and they're frustrated giving all this money to the government, and they see and hear other people who aren't. And they're wondering why. It's almost like FOMO, like they're missing out on something. And the amazing thing is that they get to this pain point. It's not because all of a sudden they woke up one day and said, this sucks. It's because they're researching, they're looking at strategies, they're looking at things, they're trying to find things. They give it to their CPA, and their CPA says, no. And that is a great indication to realize that you may have outgrown your CPA. They're not most of the time wrong. What we have found to be the difference is that when you're looking at people who make $500,000 or more, they hit a certain area of wealth that basically gives them the opportunity to access other areas of the legal system. The problem that a lot of times in existing with existing tax planners and strategists is they look at the tax system by itself. The reality is, when you look at how wealthy make tax savings, make money, is they use the legal system, which is part of taxes, which is part of investing, which is part of estate planning, which is part of charitable planning, right? In business, it's the legal system is what drives all these subcategories. So you really need to, when you outgrow a CPA, go, whoa, hang on a second. I'm just looking at this one little area. When people come to us, that's one of the things we talk about is like, hey, time out. Your world has changed because you now have access to other things. So the IRS is no longer your adversary. They become your business partner. You just need to know how this relationship works together. Now, caveat, you don't have to always like your business partner, right? But there is a respect and a use of each other's role in the partnership that has to be acknowledged, understood, and executed. And that is the difference when we talk about folks that are making $500,000 a year or more when it comes to taxes.
So the common thing we hear is what you just said. I see these things, I hear about them in the office from a friend or colleague, or I see them on Instagram or whatever, and then I'll bring it to my CPA and they'll say, nope, you can't do that. So a CPA is just one piece of the puzzle, but oftentimes it's just the piece that they're working with. What limits a CPA from being able to implement these things that these people are seeing out there?
Well, I think really understanding what is a CPA. And let's just break down the CPA is a certified public accountant. They're an accountant. They're trained and taught accounting to go serve at a company and do accounting, do the books, do the financials. Now, some of them decide that they want to go and file taxes, and they take that skill of accounting, but it does not translate to taxes. They have to learn how to prepare taxes. They say, I like this. I like charging $800 a tax return or whatever. I don't like how I have all this done in one period of the year, but I like this better than doing boring accounting all year long, right? Everybody's different, but that's what a CPA is. Okay. The IRS actually has their own designated professional when it comes to taxes. It's called an enrolled agent. An enrolled agent is not a public accountant. They are somebody that actually is certified, if you will, to have conversations directly with the IRS when it comes to tax resolution, meaning I have a tax problem. I need to negotiate with the IRS about my tax problem. Okay. So to your point, there's different areas. We work with a lot of doctors, and in medicine, there's a lot of specialties. They're all called doctors, but it is not fair to call your orthopedic surgeon your doctor if you really need a cardiologist or an internist. And they'll tell you that. They're not just going to say, well, let's figure it out. No, they're going to say you need a cardiologist. Go to him or her.
Right.
Same thing in our world.
So a CPA is working with all the activity that you've already done through the year, and then they're just reflecting it, they're inputting it on your tax return. That is their job. They can't control all that activity that you're doing, with the income you're earning or the investments you're making or the real estate you're buying or whatever. You are the grand master of that whole plan. But that's a huge job, and you're not an expert in a lot of those areas or how they all work together. So that's really the need that Terra Firma fills. And I'm always wondering, why don't we have more competition? It just makes so much sense that you need someone looking out for the whole picture. But I think I know the answer. The answer is it's really hard to be an expert in all those different areas and how it all works together, right?
Yeah, it's hard. Here's the interesting thing is that a lot of times we use the term that you used. I want an expert in this particular area, but I don't want to pay for that. Right? So I want a CPA, but how much do you charge for my taxes to get done? Okay, that's good. Oh, that's too much, right? Experts charge more than what you and I are willing to pay for. So do we really want an expert? Here's the difference of what I found in my journey in this process, working with physicians and other business owners. Most people don't teach you how to do things that you've accumulated as assets or investments. Most people don't teach you how accounting can be utilized with your assets or your investments to reflect on your tax return. Most people don't teach you how to accumulate wealth, how to have these other assets that you've accumulated work with each other, right? We call it an asset buddy system. And that's what the ultra wealthy have done. They don't just have a business. They have multiple businesses that do different things at different times for different purposes. But the main purpose is to what? Flow down to their tax return and equate to the IRS what their taxable income is. That taxable income is the final number that they pay taxes on. But everything else through the rest of the year, through the rest of the structure, through the rest of the legal system that you're utilizing, because each asset has its own set of rules. Real estate is different than cash value life insurance, which is different than stocks, which is different than your retirement account. They all have different rules. So most people use the word expert, but the reality is what you need to know is understand the rules of those assets and then understand how do you get to use those assets together. One of the analogies I like to use a lot of times, Erin, is think about when we were kids or when we were raising our kids and we had those pictures with a bunch of dots. And what are you supposed to do? Connect the dots, right? And then when you're done connecting all the dots, all of a sudden you have a picture. That's essentially, if you think about it, what our financial life is like. Imagine all these things I just brought up are different dots. And you're not sure, you don't have one person to show you how to connect these. Your CPA tries to connect them. Your financial advisor tries to connect them based on their experience and their understanding. But all of a sudden you look at this and you're like, okay, yeah, this doesn't look like anything. But life is like an Etch-a-Sketch. You can shake it up and redesign what you want. These are your decisions, your own mindset of your control over what you're doing. So if you're not happy with what your CPA is doing, then that should be an indication that you've outgrown them. Go find something else. Go find somebody who can connect these dots that you have currently and the dots that you want to add to your overall picture so that you have the ability to make these decisions. That is really the difference between a CPA and tax time and filing taxes and what it really means to do what you should be doing throughout the year. And when you hit April 15th, it's not about, oh my goodness, it's tax, I got to do my tax. No, it's like, oh, okay. Well, when are we filing our taxes?
Yeah. So it's finding that trusted partner to help you connect the dots and hold your hand through it and really educate you. And I know that is something that really sets us apart. Joe has mentioned, our process is education, application, execution. And no one's really done that. You just came out with a new video series for our members, and I've been sending it out and been talking on meetings about it. And I can't believe the feedback all the time of like once I'm like, I'm going to send you another. And he's like, okay, I can't wait. I can't wait for more videos from Bob. Like they just hang on every word and they're so hungry. They're like, this is what I've been wanting. Instead of seeing these random videos here or getting these random, like someone is finally teaching me the way and holding my hand through it. And we're not just going to, yes, we do a lot of it, but ultimately it's your decision, but you have the power when you have the education. And yeah, it's a big leap for people who are used to paying a one-time fee to file their taxes once a year, and then they're all mad after, to paying a monthly membership fee with Terra Firma that is quite a bit bigger. But what does that gain you from both a wealth perspective and a time perspective? So I guess talk a little bit about the mindset there and how to know, is it worth it for you?
Yeah. I think understanding that time is a currency, right? We only right? It's the one you can't get back. And every second that goes back, that time becomes more valuable. You talk to people that are in their 70s or 80s. I mean, when you talk to them about time, they have such a different perspective. They all got there, but they all got there after where we're at now. They were 0 to their age now. They've already experienced it. Sure, the world was different, but the age, that time currency changes and it becomes more and more valuable. So we acknowledge time as a currency. In fact, when I wrote my book, Economic Termites, I have 4 main termites I talk about. Taxes, obviously, inflation, time, because of the currency and the loss of time, specifically with physicians doing education, doing residency, giving up so much of your time to serve other people, you all of a sudden get your first real big paycheck and you're like, holy cow, I'm in my late 20s, early 30s, depending on your specialty. Right? I mean, all of your friends and colleagues that aren't doctors, they're all dumping money in their 401ks. They're upgrading from their first house, their starter house, to their next house, right? And you're just getting your big paycheck. Finally. Right? That time is valuable. And then the other one is laws and regulations. Our politicians, right? They change the rules of the game when it suits them, or they figure out or think that it makes the most sense. So we have to acknowledge that and understand that. So I think the biggest thing is understanding the value of your time as a currency. And what am I willing to do? Are you willing to? So think about it this way. Just from tax preparation, you could go get TurboTax and do it yourself for free. Just pay the $50 or whatever it is for the software and do your own taxes. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, great. Well, it kind of walks you through what your CPA is doing. How long has TurboTax been around? 2 decades? 3 decades? So what's your CPA doing? They're doing the same thing for $850. Well, that's what your time's worth. But you're not happy with it because you're paying more in taxes. So your time in your hard energy work, create an income, and now you're giving more of that away in taxes. So your time value, your currency, becomes worth more. But you're trying to judge it against this $850 task, this little transaction. And you're making this big decision on your time and currency that is becoming more and more valuable each year on this little transaction. But what you really want is a return of your time and the value of all that other money that you've already spent time on and how it grows. And that's the compounding of your wealth and the accumulation of your wealth, right? So every single chance you can get to grab some of that back, the time, the currency, the dollar currency, the different assets, the family, kids, parenting, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Right? That's your decision. What's that look like? So joining a membership group like ours and paying the fee that the investment that we have our members pay, quite honestly, it's actually quite cheap when you look at it from that perspective. And that's how we feel. But we prove the value in so many other ways, to your point of what you meant with some of the reactions to our members.
Yes. And it's not just your time now, but it's the time you have left. I just spoke to a guy yesterday and I asked, when are you hoping to retire or hit that freedom point? And, he's like, oh, it's at least 10 years out. But honestly, I don't know. I feel like I'm playing catch up in my 50s still because I wasn't earning as much as I wanted to. We don't have enough in retirement, but his tax bill was over $300,000. And I said, well, if you could keep half of that, to then put toward growing your wealth, how much will you accelerate that? How much will you be able to catch up? But you have to do something different. We're putting so much stock, like you said, in that $850 one-time transaction and expecting these incredible results. But life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It takes more if you want more.
Yeah.
So, the decision is up to you. So I think, I don't even need to ask, where does someone start? You talk to us.
Because biasly, right?
Yeah.
Selfishly.
And if you're not ready, maybe you will be. We're working on every day serving our members more and finding ways to serve even more people because we feel so strongly about all of this and not overpaying and building purposeful wealth. But we're here. Joe calls it the easy button. Just hit the easy button. So recognize, Doc, that if you're earning $500,000 or more and you're still working with a CPA, that does not match up. And it's time to play in the big leagues, really. So if you find yourself there, we'd love to talk to you. Our discovery comes with a money-back guarantee. So what have you got to lose? Reach out to us. Bob, thanks as always for being here. And Doc, thank you for being here. Hit subscribe so you never miss another episode. And until next time, go be a wealth maverick.